I cannot too strongly urge every voter to go to the polls on election day and cast his ballot in the way that his judgment and his own conscience shall dictate. Whatever the common judgment of the whole of a great people may be, that judgment will be right.
My friends, may this be the symbol of my intention to be honest and to avoid all hypocrisy or sham. Today we stand committed to the proposition that freedom is no half and half affair. If the average citizen is guaranteed equal opportunity in the polling place, he must have equal opportunity in the marketplace.
We will not participate in foreign wars, and we will not send our army, naval, or air forces to fight in foreign lands outside the Americas, except in case of attack.
What is the job before us in 1944? First, to win the war, to win it fast, to win it overwhelmingly. Secondly, to form worldwide international organizations and to arrange to use the armed forces of the sovereign nations of the world to make another world war impossible within the foreseeable future.
If the congressional elements that made the Taft-Hartley Law are allowed to remain in power, and if these elements are further encouraged by the election of a Republican president, you men of labor can expect to be hit by a steady barrage of body blows. And if you stay at home, as you did in 1946, and keep these reactionaries in power, you'll deserve every blow you get.
It takes smugness to try to stifle critics, as the Democrat candidate did last week with the epigram that a wise man does not try to hurry history. Every American knows the answer to that one. Neither a wise man nor a brave man lies down on the tracks of history to wait for the train of the future to run over him.
If you take the centralization shortcut every time something is to be done, you will perhaps sometimes get quick action. But there is no perhaps about the price you will pay for your impatience. The growth of a swollen, bureaucratic, monster government in Washington, in whose shadow our state and local governments will ultimately wither and die.
The Democratic Party in its past years has served the people. Social Security, care for the aged, housing, human rights, all these have been the products of the liberal tradition of our great party. Now in 1960, in these dangerous and difficult and challenging times, I believe that the Democratic Party can lead again. I believe we can get this country moving again.
For 19 peril-filled years, no nation has loosed the atom against another. To do so now is a political decision of the highest order, and it would lead us down an uncertain path of blows and counter-blows whose outcome none may know. No president of the United States of America can divest himself of the responsibility for such a decision.
Let us always respect, as I do, our courts and those who serve on them, but let us also recognize that some of our courts, in their decisions, have gone too far in weakening the peace forces as against the criminal forces in this country. And one of the issues that joins us together is a desire that is heartfelt throughout all of this country, of peace with honor for America and the world. As you know, we have made a major breakthrough in the negotiations which can lead to that peace for honor. And in making that breakthrough, I want to point out that we have reached agreement on the three fundamental principles that I laid down on May 8th, when, as you recall, I ordered the bombing of North Vietnam and the mining of Haiphong. Those three conditions on which we have reached agreement are these. One, all of our prisoners of war and those who are missing in action, all of our prisoners of war will be returned. Those missing in action will be accounted for. Two, we have reached agreement that there should be a ceasefire, not only in South Vietnam, but in Cambodia and Laos, all over Southeast Asia. And third, we have reached agreement on the fundamental point that the people of South Vietnam should have the right to determine their own future without having a communist government or a coalition government imposed upon them against their will.
Are valid today. If any public official anywhere in the country or any individual citizen has any information, new, significant evidence, I would hope as a public responsibility they would send it to the Attorney General so that he and our other officials could analyze.
I think that now is the time to heal our country after the Vietnam War, and I think that what the people are concerned about is not the pardon or the amnesty of those who evaded the draft, but whether or not our crime system is fair.
We have a program for a gradual reduction of government spending based on these theories, and I have a task force now that has been working on where those cuts could be made. I'm confident that it can be done and that it will reduce inflation because I did it in California.
The Democratic candidate contends that working Americans wouldn't be hurt by his tax increases. That's a fairy tale. His plan would hurt working Americans by raising their taxes and by stifling economic growth. With your support, we'll make sure that no one puts that ball and chain around America's neck.
To raise taxes and I'll say no, and they'll push and I'll say no, and they'll push again and I'll say to them, read my lips.
I'm not going to raise taxes on middle-class Americans to pay for the programs I recommended. Read my plan. And you know how you can trust me about that? Because, in the first debate, Mr. Bush made some news. He had just said Jim Baker was going to be Secretary of State. Then in the first debate, he said, no, now he's going to be responsible for domestic economic policy. Well, I'll tell you, I'll make some news in the third debate. The person responsible for domestic economic policy in my administration will be Bill Clinton.